Hello everyone, so last video I was setting up and doing my first brew with this, the RO water filter. I want to have another go at that, but with a full size batch this time. So I've filtered about 30, just shy of 30, about 28 litres of reverse osmosis water that's ready to get heated up for the mash there. And to make best use of that, I'm going to do a Pilsner. So something that I can use the nice soft water from the RO filter to its best advantage, hopefully. So I'm going to do this as a grain to glass and show the whole process all the way through, and hopefully some good results from this new water system that I'm using. So let's go. Right, so the beer that I'm going to be making is basically from a clone recipe out of the BYO book. It's for a Firestone Walker beer which is called Pivo Pils, and that's basically a kind of hoppy Pilsner. Recipe looked good. I've never tried the original, so I'm not, actually trying to get the clone as close to the original as possible. I'm just using the recipe because I like the look of it. Sapphire hops, Magnum for bittering. The original has spalt in it, but I haven't got any of those, so I'm subbing them out for some Tetnang. And yeah, that's about it really. So in that recipe they do recommend using RO water and adding calcium chloride to it. I'm going to be doing that, but slightly different to how it's in the book. I'm following the advice out of the water book again. So John Palmer's advice on the Pilsner water treatment, which is basically just to use your RO water and add a little bit of calcium chloride to it to bring it up to about 30 ppm of calcium and about 50 of chloride. So that's what we're going to do, and I'm going to start treating the water and getting the mash on now. So let's do that. Right, so I've decided to move the brew indoors into the kitchen. It's still pissing down with rain outside, as it has been for the whole of Easter. So yeah, rather than trudging back and forth to the shed in the rain, I thought I'd bring it into here. I've also got to look after the little hooligan next door as well, so it's a little bit easier if I'm actually inside for that. So let's just have a quick look at this recipe. It's pretty straightforward really. The grain bill is nice and simple. So 3.6 kilos of Pilsner malt, and I have got some of the fancy Vehemen floor malted Pilsner malt, which is really good stuff, and it should be for the amount you have to pay for a sack of that stuff. So just that. I was going to put some acidulated malt in as well to acidify it, but I've decided with this batch that I'm going to try out the phosphoric acid instead to acidify the mash. So that's just to get the pH down to the target of 5.2. And the hops, as I said before, Magnum for bittering, and then we've got 14 grams of Tetnang at 30 minutes, 22 grams of Sapphire at flame out, and another 22 grams at dry hop. So it's not massively hoppy, but apparently the Sapphire hops bring a little bit of kind of fruitiness to this recipe that should make it stand out from your kind of typical Pilsner with, say, SARS or the other sort of noble hops in there. Target OG is 1047, so assuming it gets down to about 1.008, we should be looking at about 5% ABV at the end. And I will be using the WLP 802 yeast, which is the Czech Budajovice, something like that, lager yeast, which I've used before and it's worked really well. Attenuates really good, clears down nicely. This is all going into a keg, so it's going to be 19 litre batch, and yeah, the whole lot will go straight into the keg for that. So yeah, I'm going to check the mash temp or strike temperature now, and then hopefully get on with the mash in a minute. Right, so apologies for the shocking lack of brewing footage there. I basically had a couple of beers while I was making the brew last night, and as these things go, completely forgot that I was supposed to be videoing the rest of the process. So it all went relatively smoothly though, despite my slight overconsumption while doing it. Hit the target OG, so 1047. The volume was slightly under, I'm not sure why that was, but not too bothered, so it was only about a litre or half a litre under target volume, and it is safely tucked away in the brew fridge behind me. And I pitched the 2 litre starter of 802 yeast into that, so let's just have a quick look in the brew fridge. So we've got it fermenting at 10.5 degrees, and it's just down here in the bottom, so it's just starting to bubble away now. So it's probably been in there for about 12 hours now, and you can kind of see the yeast starting to get going at the bottom there, and when I put the light on it you can see some bubbles rising up to the top. So it's not quite forming a krausen yet, but I think it will be there in a few hours. So yeah, so we'll leave that to ferment at 10.5 degrees and wait until it's pretty much done, and then ramp the temperature up a little bit for a diacetyl rest, and yeah, then we'll get on with kegging it. So see you soon. Right, so quick update on this Pilsner. We're about 10 days into the fermentation, and as you can see I've been stepping up the temperature over the last few days for the diacetyl rest, and it's looking, well, you can see quite a bit of yeast floating down there now because I've moved it around a bit, but it is looking like the fermentation is starting to subside a little bit, so I think it's most of the way. The krausen, again, you probably can't see much there, but the krausen has dropped, so I'm going to chuck the dry hops in so that they're in there while the temperature is up at the rest temperature for a couple of days, and hopefully get the benefit of that. And then I will drop the temperature back down as close to 0 as I can get it over the next few days, and then hopefully, if it's fermented fully out, we'll be kegging next. So yeah, going to get these dry hops in and then leave it for a little bit longer. Okay, so I didn't quite get round to videoing the kegging process and all that, but it has been in the keg lagering at 2 or 3 degrees for just over 2 weeks now. So it could go for a little bit longer lagering, but it's I mean, I've had a few samples already, so I know it's getting pretty much close to being good. But yeah, 2 weeks, it's pretty much there. Finished out at 1.008 in the end, so it's come out a nice 5.1%, and yeah, let's give it a pour and see what the end result is like. So it did come out really pale, as I was expecting, based on the colour when it was coming out of the boiler. So it's an old Pilsner grain bill, so that's to be expected, but it's still a very light kind of straw colour. It has cleared up beautifully in the keg, as you will see in a second. So there we have it, my first homemade Pilsner with the reverse osmosis water, and I've got to say, it looks pretty fucking good, doesn't it? Clarity wise, considering there's no finings in that whatsoever, and it's only been in the keg for 2 weeks, it's alright. I mean, you can see me through there, so not that you'd want to, but hey ho. So let's give it a little test. It's yeah, smells lagery, not much else going on aroma wise. but I've already tried it, like I said, so I kind of know what it tastes like, which is good. Yeah, it's clean, it's crisp, there's a little bit of character to it. I think this particular yeast does leave a slightly sweet note on the beer, which is actually really nice. Really like that. Almost a subtle, very subtle kind of hint of honey. It's definitely better than the lagers that I made just with my tap water that I treated with CRS prior to this, so I'm happy with that. I'm probably going to do another video where I talk about RO water and how it's affected the beers I've made so far, but this one, yeah, you know, I'm impressed with the results from that. So cheers, and I can definitely recommend this recipe, and also the yeah, using reverse osmosis water and that really simple kind of treatment method of just putting a bit of calcium chloride in it. It's made a really nice beer there. So cheers everyone, and I'll see you soon.
I'm the dude, so that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or Duder or, you know, El Duderino.